My name is Jeremy Babender. I'm the Executive Director of SciTech Institute. Thank you for joining the STEM Community Lunchtime Conversations. Presenters today are Kelly Ramirez, Communication Specialist for Central Arizona Project, and Ellen Spielman, Education Outreach Specialist at the Flood Control of Maricopa County. So thank you again, everyone, for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity. First, I'm going to give everyone a little overview about Central Arizona Project, just in case you aren't familiar with it. Not everyone in Arizona is familiar with water, but CAP is a 336-mile system that brings Colorado River water to central and southern Arizona. We actually get the water near Lake Havasu City, and it travels all the way to south of Tucson. We have 14 pumping plants that lift the water nearly 3,000 vertical feet along its route. There are 10 siphons, 4 tunnels, and then we have Lake Pleasant is our storage reservoir. New Waddell Dam helps provide some power, and Waddell Pump Generating Station is there. We deliver water to 80% of the state's population, and we are the single largest provider of water to Native American tribes within the Colorado River system. Construction began in 1973, and it took nearly 20 years to complete at a cost of $4 billion. The first delivery was in 1985. You may wonder why we could deliver before it was complete, because the first part of it was. So then construction was considered complete in 1993. As far as our educational materials, we have 3 primary sets for students in what I would consider K through 12. We really believe it's important that all of Arizonans know about water and why it's important to them. So we have H2O for kids, and it is for kindergarten through 5th grade. And it has 3 separate sets of lessons, each designed for specific grades. And it has teacher guides that include discussion questions and activities, modeling, cross-cutting concept videos, and more. You really don't have to have any prior knowledge about water or water resources to teach the lessons. It pretty much walks you through all of that. And you can get them 2 ways. You can either download and print them off our website, or you can request hard copies, and we are happy to send those to you. For the Arizona Water Story, it's grades 4 through 6. And those, let me back up for just a minute. The H2O for kids, all of our content was redesigned a couple years ago, and it is all aligned to the current Arizona educational standards, including science, social studies, ELA, geography, writing, economics, and more. So they're on point. Arizona Water Story is designed for 4th through 6th graders. It only exists in hard copy, so you can go to our website and request a hard copy. It includes 6 lesson teacher's guide and a 3-part video, and it is correlated to the ELA Common Core education standards. It's particularly useful as a supplement to the study of Arizona as a state, or as a supplement to a physical science unit on natural resources. And the third is H2O for You, which is completely online, and it's all activity based, and it's for 6, so basically middle school through high school. And it helps them learn about the Colorado River, water conservation, water safety, and even careers in the water industry. So the H2O for You activities can be used independently or together as a unit, something that the kids can do independently if you wanted to. And it provides students with the opportunity to test river mapping skills, complete challenging math problems related to water, and answer questions that then fill in a crossword puzzle. And then there's 2 more things I want to mention before we move on. There's online, there are two other things. We have 12 nonfiction reading passages about water in Arizona. They're basically like 1-page activity sheets. Sorry, there's not a slide for this. And then we also have an infographic on aquifers that breaks it down and shows all the components and explains why they're important. And that's also available online. So then for college students, we have the CAP Award for Water Research. It is open to all students at Arizona colleges or universities. And we have every year, the deadline is June 1st, and all the papers need to address water issues facing the lower Colorado River Basin, which of course Arizona is in. But they can focus on nearly anything: legal, economic, political, environmental, or water management issues, anything that might be of interest to CAP or Arizona water issues. They are then judged by an independent group of, water industry experts. We'll have a staff member, usually a board member, and first place is awarded $1,000 and second place gets $500. So here, to get more information on any of our educational programs, we have our main website, which is centralarizonaproject.com. We also have a news site called knowyourwaternews.com, and it's a great place to go and just kind of pick up information, not necessarily in an educational setting, but it's chock full of infographics and fact sheets and that sort of thing. So I encourage you to visit there as well. Thank you very much. That's all I have for you.
Well, that's awesome. Well, we appreciate you giving us that overview of what's happening at CAP. I think it's just such an important resource that, obviously helps us, like with almost everything we do in Arizona, having that water supply. So it's an important curriculum to have. So we appreciate your work to really get it out there.
Thank you.
So next, kind of continue with the theme for water, we have the education outreach specialist with the flood control of Maricopa County with Ellen Spielman. Thank you so much for being here, Ellen.
Of course, thank you for having me. So yeah, like Jeremy said, I'm the educational outreach strategist with the Flood Control District of Maricopa County. Most people, when they hear that I'm with flood control, they get very confused, being that we live in a desert. They don't think that we have flooding, but that's a good thing. That means that we're doing our job at flood control. So who are we and what exactly do we do? So if you are a homeowner and you look at your tax bill, you'll actually see a separate tax for flood control. So we are a separate taxing district within Maricopa County. Our mission is to reduce the risk from flooding and to keep properties and citizens safe from flooding. So we have lots of people that work in our building and work for us. We actually have the only meteorologist in Maricopa County that is employed by Maricopa County. So that's pretty cool. He and his team are constantly watching the weather, collect data. If you go to our website, you can actually click on a rain map to look at over 400 storm gauges throughout Maricopa County and see how much rain your neighborhood got. So that's kind of fun, fun for the kids to look at as well. During a storm, they can graph it, keep track throughout the school year, and see kind of how much rain they've received during the school year by your school. We also have hydrologists that are studying the water, planners, engineers, landscape architects. We try to use as much native plants as possible when we're planning new structures. We have inspectors, environmental scientists, maintenance workers. I'm part of the public information office. And then Angela's my co-pilot in this endeavor. We are actually both former educators. So exciting to be here and be able to bring the STEM program to flood control. We were enacted by legislation in 1959 after a flood flooded the state capitol building. So that will get things moving along there, right? So that's why we exist today. What do we offer for STEM? Much like CAP, we have lesson plans that are grade level banded, all tied to state science, ELA, social studies standards. We try to incorporate as much as possible in there. So these are just some pictures of some activities that we have in our lessons. So that first one on the left, they're actually building a floodway. So just kind of taking some different materials, building a floodway. And then part of that activity is to dam it up and see if they can keep their town actually from flooding as well. So it's kind of fun to go into classrooms. Angela and I are available to come into classrooms, co-teach with you. We can present whatever you feel comfortable with, or you can just download our lessons. We're working on building some kits so that you have all of these materials available to you for checkout so that you can do them in your classroom. Now, the one in the yellow bin, they're building a dam. So that's kind of fun as well. We just kind of give them a whole lot of materials and see what they choose to build the dam. You'll see that one has a lot of cotton balls in it. The kids always think that cotton balls are absorbent. And so they try to use those until they realize that they're only so absorbent until they get wet. So it's always fun to watch them. And then part of the engineering process in that is that they actually have to design it first, show it to their teacher, and then they can get their materials, then they test it, and then if it doesn't work, they get to go back and redo it. That bottom picture, that is Dan. He is our meteorologist that I was speaking about. And he is holding the top of one of our rain gauges. So he occasionally, when there's not a storm going on and it fits into his calendar, he's available to come out as well as some of our hydrologists or planners or engineers to give classroom presentations. So that was a 6th grade class talking about weather and climate and just the monsoons in general, and what happens when we have our monsoons. So lots of different things that we offer. We can also come out for STEM nights. If you go to our website, maricopa.gov/STEM, you'll see a video of our flood model that we can bring out for STEM nights. We can bring it out to your classroom or any community events. We have been super busy and super booked up. So if you are interested in that, contact either Angela or myself as soon as possible so that we can get you on the calendar before the school year ends. But of course, we're available in the summer as well if you have any summer camps or anything like that. And then if you already know any dates in the fall, we're happy to get you on for those dates as well.
All right, well, thank you. Both presenters were just like super efficient on the time. That's we appreciate that. And just also, you know, with the Q&A, really want to encourage, if you are attendees, just please start posting questions that you'd really like to know in the chat. I think that really helps to, you know, get things rolling. But to start it off, just how, you know, to each of the presenters, how has the discussion around water changed throughout the years? Just from, you know, what you're saying, Kelly, I think you mentioned you've been at CAP for 17 years. So you have a lot of probably seen some of that evolution. So how's it for you?
Well, I think one of the interesting things is that in general, people used to think you just turned your faucet on and water happened. It's very easy when the water's plentiful to forget that we're in a desert. And I think now people are actually questioning where the water's coming from and asking what they can do to help out with that. And I think that really moves the conversation. And, you know, it really does matter and what people do and how they use their water. I mean, the amount of water we use now is equivalent to the amount of water, I want to say it was either 50 or 60 years ago, which you can imagine what the population has done. But we really have moved the needle as far as water efficiencies and just the awareness of everything. So it's a pretty powerful change.
And how about you, Ellen? How's that impacted you in your work?
So for us, a lot of the discussion has turned around to kind of like Kelly, water conservation and how can we better capture that water. So some of our discussions with our planners and our engineers when we're working with communities, it used to be that a lot of our structures were just these big concrete channels, get the water away from people as quickly as possible. And now we're looking at how can we get away from the concrete channels and put in more natural environments so that it can soak back in for groundwater use and that kind of stuff, so that we're not just trying to get it out. Also makes it more aesthetically pleasing when we use natural landscapes as opposed to big concrete channels. So we're starting to move into those directions. We're actually doing a whole retrofit project is in the works for our building and our parking lot to see what we can do as far as capturing more of that storm water to use it and using less potable water for our irrigation systems. So we are definitely starting to have those conversations as well.
Perfect. So we had a couple of questions related to the materials. And so one of them is looking at, you know, the education materials, are they only Maricopa County? And the other one is just about how to get the homeschool community access and how they get connected as well. So maybe start with Ellen on that.
Our curriculum is all available online, so any educator in the country could really download it and use it. We don't mind, it's totally free, so it's up there, it's for public use, whoever wants to use it. As far as us coming out and co-teaching or doing a school STEM night or anything like that, that does have to stay within Maricopa County for us, just because we are funded that way, so we do have to stay within Maricopa County.
Okay, and Kelly, how does that work with CAP? For the curriculum?
So obviously anyone can go online and download. I'm also happy to send it to anyone, anywhere. And just for reference, we actually serve 3 counties within Arizona. We do Maricopa, Pima, and Pinal all get water, but I'm happy to send education materials to anyone in the state, across the country. I think water is a bigger issue than most people know. And the more we can share, the better off we all are.
All right. And then we have a question. Actually, it's from Kelly Green. She's really good about thinking about really ways to leverage it and make it go further. So she's wondering about teacher training event for using the water resources. What do you both think about something like that, or has that been done before? You know, how does that go? Love to get your thoughts on that.
We certainly can. We've done teacher training events. We did a big presentation. It was pre-COVID, obviously, for ASU for one of their summer teacher conferences. We've done Zoom stuff, so with Science Center. So yeah, we're happy to do whatever you guys want.
So at CAP, we don't have a dedicated staff for education. It is a small component of our communications department. Just something we don't have a lot of resources that we can devote to. We actually participate on the advisory council for Arizona Project WET, which is kind of our outreach for teachers through that. So we don't necessarily have the staff to participate in at that level, but it might be something we could help with, but not something we would handle ourselves.
Got it. Okay. And then we got a question from Marnie asking about builders and if they're looking more seriously at using gray water for landscaping and toilets, etc. I think that probably go to Ellen more.
Yeah.
I don't know the answer to that specifically. I know personally, I just purchased a new home about a year ago and there was no with my builder. I mean, they're putting in the desert landscaping in the front in all the homes, obviously, but no, as far as, you know, the toilets, I mean, the low flow, but, you know, nothing that's super new from the last 15 or 20 years.
Well, and CAP is a water wholesaler, and so we aren't involved at that sort of level. Those are water users, which are, one of them are cities. They would be more involved at that level for sure.
Got it. So I see Pamela Justice is here, and she's from Project WET. We've kind of mentioned them a few
Hi,
times. But
Pam.
maybe Pam, do you want to say a couple words about the curriculum since you're here, and you can maybe add to what the outreach is with CAP?
Sure, I'd love to. So for several years now, CAP has funded a 2-day teacher PD for, I think it's 5th through or 6th through 12th grade. And it's all about the history of the Colorado River with the compact from 1922 all the way to the future and to the current time. And we have guest speakers from CAP come in and talk about the jobs that they do within the Central Arizona Project, delivering that water. This year, if we're in the process of talking about funding, and if that funding does come through again this year, it'll probably be the first week in June, like the 7th and 8th or 8th and 9th of June. And it's we have a maximum of 20 teachers that we invite to attend that.
Perfect. Well, thanks. Yeah, thanks for giving us the update and joining us today too. That was kind of a nice synergy for you to be here.
Thank you.
And one thing, kind of going back to that comment, you know, Kelly pointed out too, just the fact that we're using, you know, the same amount of water as 50 or 60 years ago. And I think there's kind of this dialogue that goes on that we're running out of water and it's a real challenge. So like kind of where are we on that? Is the water supply getting less, or do we have enough water, you know, in terms of the water rights, you know, you hear like some of it's being cut off or not, kind of where are we at on that? Maybe start with Kelly on that.
So in 2022 was the first year we were officially in shortage on the Colorado River, which means Arizona takes a huge cut of our water supply. Right now, that's only primarily impacting water that we were recharging into the ground, as well as some of our agricultural water users. It's not a low enough, deep enough cut where it's not impacting cities yet, municipalities. We're working with a lot of our basin partners, both lower and upper, and the federal government to really come up with solutions that will help going forward. Because as you all know, Lake Mead is plummeting, and that is, it's really a critical reservoir. And so we're working and trying to come up with creative, collaborative solutions to make sure we have water going forward. It's one of the most important things for us out here in the desert, for sure.
And Ellen, anything to add on that?
No, I don't think so. I mean, we're dealing a lot with stormwater. So, you know, when we go out, it's interesting to hear how people are, you know, collecting that runoff from their roofs and trying to use more xeriscape in their lawns. One gentleman told us that he has a 5-gallon bucket in his shower, and then when it's full, he uses that to manually flush toilets, which is something that I just never had thought about before. So just kind of hearing how, you know, some people are just getting creative on their own out there is kind of fun and exciting to see.
All right, we have a question from Fritz in terms of how will climate change affect water in our future in Arizona?
You want me to go?
You could start.
So CAP does have someone on staff who does participate in some of the climate research things. We participated in cloud seeding, and we're really involved in it at that level, just to literally to see how it will impact us and make sure we can adjust as much as we can going forward. I think that's the thing. I don't know that anyone knows for sure exactly how it will impact. If we had the crystal ball, that would be perfect, but we are working in those areas.
And I do know that there's a lot of research out there as far as climate change and how it affects the monsoons. And, you know, one of the things is it seems like we're having less monsoon or less storms during the monsoon season, but those storms tend to be more intense during those storms as well. So, you know, they're looking at climate change and how that's affecting the intensity of the storms as well as the frequency of the storms.
Yeah. I'm kind of curious from the level of like, you know, people are going to like generally, my assumption is people are going to do what's kind of convenient within their lives and what they're able to do. But there's some level of when people kind of just get that there's an issue. Like, so if you take water abundance, like maybe you're on Lake Mead and you can totally see that water level decreasing. I imagine if you're in a city and like for some reason you don't actually get water in your sink, somebody's gonna be like, what's going on, you know, with that. But, you know, might maybe go to like Kelly, what do you think is going to be that potential turning point to really have the, you know, the general public really recognize that water is a really major factor that we got to pay attention to?
Well, I think this year is probably the start of it. Shortage on the Colorado River. We've read a lot about what Governor Doug Ducey's doing with funding. And I think even just having it in the news and having people go, wait, I can't just turn my faucet on and always know there's water. We have a lot of transplants in Arizona. I'm actually from the Midwest. And so water was not an issue. It was everywhere. It was in the water tower across town. And when I moved to Arizona, I never gave it a second thought. So I think the more it's in the news and the more it is in the front of people's minds, they'll think twice about, you know, I mean, all of it, whether it's having a pool, putting a fountain in, how they use, you know, their landscaping and that entire thing. That's going to continue to move the needle for us as a state for sure.
Okay. Ellen, anything to add from your perspective? No?
Nope.
Sounds like Destiny's already influenced. Sounds like she's going to take the 5-gallon bucket in the shower from now on. So with that, I want to send it back over to Amanda to kind of take us to our next part of the conversation with the breakouts. And really do appreciate everybody being here and active in the chat and contributing to the conversation.
Thank you so much, Jeremy. So right now we're going to be moving into our breakout rooms for about 15-20 minutes. In the chat, you will see a link to a Google Sheet. And in that sheet, you will have your moderator and the questions already there. So you can also edit and add to that document as you are working through those questions. Each room will have a moderator who will support in recording the comments from the group as well, but you can support as well. After breakouts, moderators will be called on after when we all come back to the main room to share more information on some key thoughts or ideas discussed in your breakout rooms. So we will see you back here in just a little bit. Welcome back, everyone. Awesome. I think we're all back. Awesome. Thank you so much. I'm so sorry. I think I cut off some groups talking. So, but thank you for coming back, and thank you for having such a dynamic and valuable discussion. As I was listening to a couple of discussions right next to me, so it was amazing to hear those discussions and just looking at the Excel document of all of those resources that are in there and that you guys all shared out. So we would love to start with, I believe, breakout room 1 was Claire. If you want to share some tidbits from your group.
Yeah, we had a really great conversation. We learned about some cool collaborations going on with the Lower Gila River Collaborative, some collaborations between ranchers and environmentalists, both kind of working together towards the same goal. Brian told us about these fascinating homes called earth ships in New Mexico that reuse water 4 times. And those sound like they're very interesting. They're really cool looking too, very sci-fi if you want to look them up. And we also learned about just kind of some easy things that you can do to kind of start conserving water, like catching the water under your faucet when you're letting the water heat up in the shower, and then using that to water your plants. And we also learned about the moringa tree, I think, if I'm saying that right, and how you can use it in all sorts of different things. We're going to have to start a little exchange to get some seeds and start trying it out.
That is amazing. I clicked on earth ships and already I want to dive deep into that information. Casey, go ahead.
Hi, yeah, we talked about quite a few things, but I think one of the big ones was we were talking about water reuse at home. And so we talked about there are some instructions we put a link to in the spreadsheet about rain barrels. We talked about ways that you can prevent mosquitoes from growing in your standing water in like a rain barrel, which would be super helpful. And then we just talked about ways that you could potentially reroute your water in your home to different areas depending on what the use is. So, yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Well, we want to thank you again for attending our STEM Community Lunchtime Conversation session all about water in Arizona. Your participation and input are what makes our STEM community stronger. So in the next couple days, we will be following up with all of this information, the recorded version of our SCLC, the Excel document with all of the information that you shared today in your breakout rooms, a copy of the slides presentation, and then a registration link for our upcoming conversation happening Thursday, April 7th at noon, all about Earth Day resources and the connection to Earth Day that everyone has. So we look forward to our next conversation, and we look forward to seeing you there at our next one. Thank you all for being here. Have a great weekend.
Thanks so much.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, quick question. How do you recommend getting the mosquitoes down in your rain buckets?
I would store the
BTI
water.
mosquito dunks.
What is it?
BTI mosquito dunks. They're a bacteria. And they're like little donuts. They look like little donuts. You just put them in your rain barrel, and the bacteria kills the larvae of the mosquito. And they're pet friendly, so your pets can drink the water if they ever get into it, and it won't hurt them.
Excellent. Can you put the link to that in the chat?
I could look it up. Yeah, it should be. You should be able to find it at Home Depot or.
Oh, okay. Then don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Excellent.
From my old days doing that kind of stuff.
Cool. Thank you.
And I was going to say, if your system's properly installed, you shouldn't be having mosquito issues. If it's, the tank is opaque and it's well sealed against critters, including mosquitoes, you shouldn't have that problem. It's only when you have like an open top container that you have that, like people have culvert tanks that don't have a top cover, and then it's just a mosquito breeding ground, but you really shouldn't have that issue with a properly installed rain tank.
Right.
Great information. Well, awesome. I also put the registration link in the chat for our next one in April. So if you'd like to register or pre-register for that one, the link is in the chat for you as well.
Great. Thank you.
Of course. Thank you everyone for being here.
Thank you.
Bye everyone. Have a great weekend.
You too.
Thank you.